While I was drinking my morning coffee, Warrayas came to me. I had intended to go to his house, but he forestalled me. He said that he had come to remind me of the invitation of the day before, but I knew that, unable to hold himself in wait, he had come to learn of the result of my intervention. "It's no good," I told him as he seated himself. "She doesn't want to marry at all. If I were you, I'd certainly let the whole matter drop." I had not imagined that the news would have such an effect on him. However, Warrayas, who changed women as he changed donkeys, now sat in front of me with a morose expression on his face, eyelids trembling, savagely biting his lower lip. He began fidgeting in his seat and tapping the ground nervously with his stick. He took off the slipper from his right foot and put it on again several times, as though preparing to get up and go, then reseated himself and opened his mouth as though wishing to speak, but without doing so. How extraordinary! Was it reasonable to suppose that Warrayas was in love? "It's not as if there's not plenty of other women to marry," I said to him. His intelligent eyes were no longer intelligent, but had become two small glass globes fixed in a rigid stare. "I shall marry no one but her," he said. "She'll accept me whether she likes it or not. Does she imagine she's some queen or princess? Widows in this village are more common than empty bellies. She should thank God she's found a husband like me." "If she's just like every other woman, then why this insistence?" I said to him. "You know she's refused many men besides you, some of them younger. If she wants to devote herself to bringing up her children, why not let her do as she pleases?" Suddenly, Warrayas burst into a crazy fit of rage, which I regarded as out of character. In a violent state of excitement, he said something that truly astonished me. "Ask yourself why Mahmoud's daughter refused marriage. You're the reason. There's certainly something between you and her. Why do you interfere? You're not her father or her brother or the person responsible for her. She'll marry me whatever you or she does. Her fathers agreed, and so have her brothers. This nonsense you learn at school won't wash with us here. In this village, the men are the guardians of the women." I don't know what would have happened if my father had not come in at that moment. I immediately got up and left. I went to see Mahjoub in his field. Mahjoub and I are of the same age. We had grown up together and had sat at adjoining desks in the elementary school. He was more clever than I. Whenever we finished our elementary education, Mahjoub had said, "This amount of education will do me, reading, writing, and arithmetic. We're farming folk like our fathers and grandfathers. All the education a farmer wants is to be able to write letters, to read the newspapers, and to know the prescribed rules for prayers. Also so that if we have got some problem, we can make ourselves understood with the powers that be." I went my own way, and Mahjoub turned into a real power in the village, so that today he has become the chairman of the Agricultural Project Committee in the cooperative, and a member of the committee of the hospital that is almost finished. He heads every delegation which goes to the provincial center to take up instances of injustice. With independence, Mahjoub became one of the local leaders of the National Democratic Socialist Party. We would occasionally chat about our childhood in the village, and he would say to me, "But look where you are now and where I am. You've become a senior civil servant, and I am a farmer in this God-forsaken village." "It's you who've succeeded, not I would say to him with a genuine admiration, "because you influence actual life in the country. We civil servants, though, are of no consequence. People like you are the legal heirs of authority. You are the sinews of life. You're the salt of the earth." "If we're the salt of the earth," Mahjoub would say with a laugh, "then the earth is without flavor." He laughed too on hearing of my encounter with Warrayas. Warrayas is an old windbag. He doesn't mean what he says. "You know that my relationship with her is dictated by duty, neither more nor less," I said to him. "Don't pay any attention to Warrayas' drivel," said Mahjoub. "Your reputation in the village is without blemish. The people all speak well of you because you're doing your duty by the children of Mustafa Said, God rest his soul. He was, after all, a stranger who was in no way related to you. After a short silence, he said, "Anyway, if the woman's father and brothers are agreeable, no one can do anything about it." "But if she doesn't want to marry?" I said to him. "You know how life is run here," he interrupted me. "Women belong to the men, and a man's man even if he's decrepit." "But the world's changed," I said to him. "These are things that no longer fit in with our way of life in this age." "The world hasn't changed as much as you think," said Mahjoub. "Some things have changed. Pumps instead of water wheels, iron plows instead of wooden ones, sending our daughters to school, radios, cars, learning to drink whiskey and beer instead of arak and millet wine. Yet even so, everything's as it was." Mahjoub laughed as he said, "The world will really have changed when the likes of me become ministers in the government. And naturally that," he added, still laughing, "is an out-and-out impossibility." "Do you think Warrayas has fallen in love with Husna bint Mahmoud?" I said to Mahjoub, who had cheered me up. "It's not out of the question," said Mahjoub. "Warrayas is a man who hankers after things. For 2 years now he's been singing her praises. He asked for her hand in marriage before, and her father accepted, but she refused. They waited, hoping that in time she'd accept." "But why this sudden passion?" I said to Mahjoub. "Warrayas has known Husna bint Mahmoud since she was a child. Do you remember her as a wild young girl climbing trees and fighting with boys? As a child, she used to swim naked with us in the river. What's happened to change that now?" "Warrayas," said Mahjoub, "is like one of those people who are crazy about owning donkeys. He only admires a donkey when he sees some other man riding it. Only then does he find it beautiful and strives hard to buy it, even if he has to pay more than it's worth." After thinking for a while in silence, he said, "It's true, though, that Mahmoud's daughter changed after her marriage to Mustafa Saeed. All women change after marriage, but she, in particular, underwent an indescribable change. It was as though she were another person. Even we, who were her contemporaries used to play with her in the village, look at her today and see her as something new, like a city woman, if you know what I mean." I asked Mahjoub about Mustafa Saeed. "God rest his soul," he said. "We had a mutual respect for each other. At first, the relationship between us was not a strange one, but our work together on the project committee brought us closer. His death was an irreparable loss. You know, he gave us an invaluable help in organizing the project. He used to look after the accounts, and his business experience was of great use to us. It was he who pointed out that we should invest the profits from the project in setting up a flour mill. We saved a lot of expense, and today people come to us from all over the place. It was he who pointed out that we should open a cooperative shop. Our prices now are no higher than those in Khartoum. In the old days, as you know, supplies used to arrive by steamer once or twice a month. The traders would hoard them till the market had run out, then they would sell them for many times their cost. Today, the project owns 10 lorries that bring us supplies every other day, direct from Khartoum and Durman. I asked him more than once to take over the chairmanship, but he always used to refuse, saying I was better suited. The Omda and the merchants absolutely loathed him because he opened the villagers' eyes and spoiled things for them. After his death, there were rumors that they had planned to kill him. Mere talk. He died from drowning. Tens of men were drowned that year. He was a man of great mental capacity. Now there was a man, if there is any justice in the world, who deserved to be a minister in the government. Politics have spoiled you, I said to Mahjoub. You've come to think only in terms of power. Let's not talk about ministries and the government. Tell me about him as a man. What sort of a person was he? Astonishment showed on his face. What do you mean by what sort of person? He said. He was as I have described him. I could not find the appropriate words for explaining what I meant to Mahjoub. In any case, he said, what's the reason for your interest in Mustafa Saeed? You've already asked me about him several times. Before I could reply, Mahjoub continued, "You know, I don't understand why he made you the guardian of his children. Of course, you deserve the honor of the trust and have carried out your responsibilities in admirable fashion. Yet you knew him less than any of us. We were here with him in the village while you saw him only from year to year. I was expecting he'd have made me or your grandfather guardian. Your grandfather was a close friend of his, and he used to enjoy listening to his conversation. He used to say to me, 'You know, Mahjoub, Haj Ahmed is a unique person.' 'Haj Ahmed's an old windbag,' I would reply, and he would get really annoyed. 'No, don't say that,' he'd say to me. 'Haj Ahmed is a part of history.' In any case, I said to Mahjoub, 'I'm only a guardian in name. The real guardian is you. The two boys are here with you, and I'm way off in Khartoum.' 'They're intelligent and well-mannered boys,' said Mahjoub. 'They take after their father. They couldn't be doing better in their studies.' 'What will happen to them,' I said, "if this laughable business of marriage Warrayas has in mind goes through?' 'Take it easy,' said Mahjoub. 'Warrayas will certainly become obsessed with some other woman. Let's suppose, at the very worst, she marries him. I don't think he'll live more than a year or two, and she'll have her share of his many lands and crops.' Then, like a sudden blow that lands right on top of one's head, Mahjoub's words struck home. 'Why don't you marry her?' My heart beat so violently within me that I almost lost control. It was some time before I found words, and in a trembling voice said to Mahjoub, 'You're joking, of course.' 'Seriously,' he said, 'why don't you marry her? I'm certain she'd accept. You're the guardian of the two boys, and you might as well round things off by becoming a father.' I remember her perfume of the night before and the thoughts about her that had taken root in my head in the darkness. 'Don't tell me,' I heard Mahjoub saying with a laugh, 'that you're already a husband and a father. Every day men are taking second wives. You wouldn't be the first or the last.' 'You're completely mad,' I said to Mahjoub, laughing, having recovered my self-control. I left him and took myself off, having become certain about a fact which was later on to cost me much peace of mind, that in one form or another I was in love with Husna bint Mahmoud, the widow of Mustafa Said, and that I, like him and Warrayas and millions of others, was not immune from the germ of contagion that oozes from the body of the universe.